Hello everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and we are inside of the 2024 BMW i4 xDrive40, one of their latest versions of the i4 EV here in the US. And this is a pretty unique model because it is the xDrive version. But the i4s also are here with iDrive 8.5, which is BMW's enhanced version of iDrive 8, which some people had issues with. I personally didn't really mind it too much, though. I think the climate control situation was a little bit messy. It's still a little bit messy on 8.5, but allegedly they fixed something. So let's take a look at iDrive 8.5 and just the overall technological interface of this i4, because there is a lot to talk about here, and I really like what BMW is doing right now. All right guys, so when you step inside the BMW i4, you have a pretty nice interior space. We have these massive screens in front of you right here. And if you're wondering why I'm sitting in front of a charger, I'm waiting to charge, and there are only these two working. That one's down and that side is down as well, and they're not simultaneous chargers. So I'm just waiting for a spot there. I don't need to charge, but I do want to film a video charging to see how it works on public stations. Anyways, enough with the rambling. Here we have our iDrive 8.5 screens, which are pretty much identical visually at first to the iDrive 8 screen. So these really cool curved displays here, really high resolution, very solidly and well integrated into the dash. I love this little piece here that makes it look like it's floating. I really like this. Is one of my favorite infotainment systems. You could actually see it through the steering wheel as well. So BMW thought about that as well when designing these screens. Now, when you turn the vehicle on, you have a little blue button here because we are in an EV. So that should start up, and we'll give a nice little intro sound. Okay, so what are we looking at with here? So up front here, we have our digital gauge cluster, and this can change in a myriad of different ways here. We're in comfort mode, which I think is the best mode to demonstrate this, because when you put it in if you're sport, comfort, and eco pro modes, in the eco pro mode, you really can only have this kind of design layout, which I'll demonstrate in a second. So when you press this button on the right-hand side of the steering wheel here, you'll see you can change the content in the center of the gauge cluster, which is pretty cool. But you can also change what's happening in the heads-up display as well. It doesn't really come across on camera too well, but there's a really cool designs you can do right there with the heads-up display. Eco Pro is pretty cool as well. And the content, of course, we can see can change from mapping to assisted view to just regular content, as well as a G-force meter and all that fun stuff. But in the other modes, you can actually change the whole design of the screen. So I'm going to put it back into comfort here, and we'll see what happens when we do that. We have a nice little display here. We can also see what's going on in our center console as well. So now we have an option to change the layout of this display. We can have it in this kind of open layout where we have the centerpiece open. We can also change it to a more comfort style layout where we have a larger centerpiece there. And then we have a unique style, which is kind of like this BMW hockey stick design, I call it over here. That's another cool design we have. And I think that's about it with the different designs in the center. And then we can also change that content again in the middle, and again our heads-up display can be different pieces as well. Same thing goes with the sport mode. When you press sport mode, you can do the same stuff here. You can change your content and your heads-up display information as well, which is really fun. If I go into sport individual, I think I can change things even more in our specific settings over here, but you can see that comfort mode is really the most configurable with the gauge cluster, at least on the i4. I believe in the other BMW i products like the i7, you have a little bit more customizability in terms of that center console there, which is fun. Back into Eco Pro mode, and I do want to talk about this display here, because this is really the highlight of what BMW has changed with iDrive 8.5 here. So as you can see, gone are the controls on the side panel here. They've been removed and kind of put in this lower dock area here. So now in the lower dock area, you have a home button. Right here, we can see our home screen. We have our climate control button that's always there. We also have a navigation button that's always there, a music button, as well as a phone and Apple CarPlay button, which is a really nice touch there. Now, what's the same as iDrive 8 is this app drawer here, which this is pretty much identical to iDrive 8. So we have our app drawer here. We can go to our specific infotainment apps, so we'll kind of pull apps out of Apple CarPlay and put them in here. And our vehicle control settings are also found in here. This is actually really easy to get used to once you do use the system quite a bit. I do like how it is laid out. What I'm not too big of a fan of is this new home screen layout. If you're familiar with BMWs and iDrive, you'll know that the cards always used to be able to like kind of scroll through this display style screen layout over there. That is gone now. Now we have this permanent, here we have the map on here, but you can change it to either be a map, the live vehicle screen, or music or media. So you have one of those three things as this main back screen on your homepage here. And then on the left-hand side, we have these tiles, which you can scroll through. So you could have map, you could have your My BMW settings here and your vehicle status. You could have some destination inputs for our mapping. We have some media information, some phone connectivity information, as well as more media information. So these are these new different card styles over here, which I don't know, I'm still getting used to a little bit. I'm so used to iDrive 8 even, and older BMW iDrive systems. We also do still have this kind of pull down lever here. We can see BMW system settings, ID, screen off, and a few other hard button informations that will always be up there as well, which is nice. And all of these little icons up here can be clicked on to change. So for your time, for example, your profile, as well as music, you can mute things here. And I think that's really fun and easy to use. And these lower buttons are pretty configurable as well. When you press media, it will open up if you want Apple CarPlay, FM radio, or Sirius. Same thing with mapping. It'll actually sometimes let you see if you want Apple CarPlay maps or the built-in BMW navigation system. Now, another huge thing that they've changed with iDrive 8.5 is the climate settings. Oh, this person's uncharging, so let's go hop over there and take that charging spot real quick. And then let's look at that new climate menu that everyone's kind of been talking about with this new iDrive 8.5 system. So the real big thing here is that they've put the climate settings in a whole new climate screen, and they finally made our heated seats accessible in this lower bar here, where you before had to go into these menus to get into it. So let's look at the climate menu first before we get into the weirdities of this thing. So we open the climate menu like this, pretty cool. So all our climate functions are off. This panel here is pretty much the same as iDrive 8. But on 8.5, this whole system is completely new. So when I turn our climate on here, we can see that this whole screen is completely different here. And BMW really does want you to kind of use it in the auto setting. So when I press auto, this whole screen is going to change to automatic program, and you prioritize your fan speed here. And it is so hot today, so I'm going to pump this all the way down to like maybe 67, 68 degrees. We'll lower the fan speed for you guys here, but you can see the different animations that happen when you're kind of playing with these fan speeds here. On our climate settings to our left here, we have individual climate settings, so we can adjust the upper body settings for driver, passenger, and second row seats. So for driver, for example, you can kind of configure the custom settings to adapt to really just automatic modes. You also have preconditioning. So this is essentially your start-stop version of the vehicle. This is the same pretty much for both gas and the EV versions of the i4. You have a departure plan, and you can start it now. That's pretty cool. If you want to cool down your vehicle, you can control it more through the app. I do like these little pulsating icons down here, so I'm going to go back to the home screen. You can see how this bar always stays down here. And if you want to access your heated seats, or if you had ventilated seats, which I don't think the i4 can get, but in a different BMW, now you can just press this button and this little bar will pop up. You can control it here. Before, you had to go into, don't want that on today. Before, you had to go into the climate screen, and then there was a button here where you can kind of control your heated seats here. And I will note that having the climate controls on will affect your range number. So right now we have our climate on, we have 185 miles of range. The second I turn the climate off, the estimate should jump up to 196. So there's a pretty big discrepancy. And again, it's just estimating that. So if you have your climate on very low, unless you put it on high, that range number is definitely going to change. So when I put that climate on high, for example, it's going to drop even lower. So now it's at 180. If I put it on very low, now it's going to say 185. So it's a pretty dynamic system, how it calculates your range. Some other EVs really take a huge hit from their climate system, so this one's not too bad. And of course, this is a BMW, so we still have our iDrive controller down here, which is a kind of touchpad here. We also have media, home, map, navigation, telephone, back, and option buttons, as well as the controller itself. Media actually will take us to Apple CarPlay if we have Apple CarPlay turned on. Same thing with home, not home, maps. Navigations will take us to like Apple CarPlay stuff, and telephone, which is nice. And you can always control things with the iDrive controller pretty easily, so you just move things around to zoom in and out of the map. If I want to change it to the live vehicle or media settings, pretty easy to do. I can bring it down here and go home. I can go to my down app drawer here, and it'll bring me to the app drawer as well. We also go to our phone and stuff. But you can only change these climate controls by touch, unless you physically go into here with the iDrive controller and change all the stuff in there, which is interesting to note. We also have a virtual assistant in the car, which can change a whole bunch of functions here. So I could say, hey, BMW, it's cold in here.
All right, it will be warmer right away.
There you go. So the assistant just raised my temperature a little bit. And I could say, hey, BMW, can you lower the temperature? Hey, BMW, can you lower the temperature?
All right.
So now it lowered the temperature back down. And you can also do things like changing the ambient light color. A little bit difficult to see right now, but I think it's on we have a red ambient lighting. So I could say, hey, BMW, change the interior lighting to turquoise. Didn't hear me that time. Hey BMW, change the interior lighting to turquoise.
Great.
There you go.
I'll
So you can
adjust
see
the
it
light
just
color to
changed
turquoise.
light color to turquoise, and you do kind of have to know the light colors to kind of understand which one you want it to go if you want to do that command, but it can do it on the fly, which is pretty cool. And if you do want to change it manually, you have to go to interior lighting and color. Then you can just, I guess, memorize all these different names that you want to have your ambient lighting if you want to change it via voice, which honestly is pretty quick and easy to do. It doesn't really mess that up too much. No big issues there. We also have an absolutely fantastic parking system here. So I can press my parking view down here. This will do automatic parking. It has backup assistance, or remember, around I think 100 150 feet of how you just pulled into a spot, and it can reverse out of a spot for you, which is just incredible. And it also gives you a view of how wide your doors will open, and from a 360 angle. And you also have this 360 view. You can do a true 360 view by this. You kind of rotate around the vehicle. I like how it's color matched to this particular i4 in this violet color, which is pretty nice. I think it does also kind of do your turn signals as well. So if I have my turn signal on, that's only in the live vehicle settings actually. For car wash mode as well. We also have, again, that parking camera, and there is your regular panoramic front view camera here, which you can activate at different activation points if you don't want to hit your front end, because this is a lower style vehicle. And again, some other basic controls down here. We have a USB-A port here, which is really interesting, though we do have a wireless charging mat back here, which honestly very scary to use. My phone almost like overheated from that. We have a USB-C port in there, and there are, I believe, 2 USB-C ports back here as well if you do need some charging ports in this i4. No digital rear view mirror, which is, I think, fine, but a lot of other manufacturers are starting to do that now. We do have this nice little sunroof in here again, and pretty other basic controls. This one does come with the full driver assistance professional package, so it has these little lights on the steering wheel here that will actually illuminate. So I think they also illuminate when you're doing the assisted parking, which I'm going to demonstrate for you guys right now. So we're in a spot. I'm going to make it park itself for you again. So you press the button while you're driving, and it should find the spot for you and park. So let's see if it finds these parking spaces over here. I can visually see that there are some there, but sometimes it just doesn't like to recognize them. Okay, so it's skipping a lot of these spots over here. Honestly, it does work most of the time. I'm wondering if this light discrepancy over here from the sun is causing it to be a little bit funky right now. Okay, so it found that spot. So once you find a spot, you press park here, and you literally just take your hands off the wheel. You can see that this will turn green for you. And oh boy, it's a little scary of an operation, I won't lie. So it knows there's a car there. You do always want to have your foot on the brake just in case of emergencies. So as you can see, it is stopping now. Oh gosh. This is one of the scariest things you could let the car do. But honestly, there's a lot of parking sensors around here, and I do trust it. I've used it plenty of times, and it's gotten into scarier spots than this. And does it really well. It centers itself and makes sure you have a good enough distance away from these cars. And look at that. It's going to come to the end of the spot, and it will put me in park for me. Check that out. Park and the vehicle doors are unlocked. Really cool feature. And believe it or not, it will actually take you out of a spot as well. So you press the button again. I think if I put it into drive, maybe put it into park again, it usually will take you out of a spot. Sometimes it's really just out of a parallel parking spots. It will do that for you, but that is also a feature of this vehicle. Now, oh gosh, this is one of the scariest things you could let the car do. And guys, of course, I do want to show you what it looks like while you're in Apple CarPlay. The recording may sound a little funky right now because I'm recording with Apple CarPlay on, but it is huge. Check out how big Apple CarPlay is, and it's super crisp on here. It might be a little laggy because I'm recording right now, but pretty crisp and easy to use. And then Apple Maps, if you are using said Apple Maps, for example, it will display into this navigation system here. So I'm going to put in a restaurant real quick for something. I'm just putting something in random here, and when I press go, you can see Apple Maps will display on this center screen here, and it will show you turn-by-turn directions up in the heads-up display as well. So that's a really nice touch. And again, it's just absolutely massive on iDrive 8.5, so really impressive there, and it works flawlessly. Obviously, it is wireless, as I'm filming with my phone here, as you can see, and it's also working pretty well. It's getting a little laggy because my phone's connected, but as you can see, it does work.